Well, welcome back to the Piney Woods Homestead, y'all. It's a little bit cold this morning. 20 degrees, slight breeze. It's cold. I'm not going to be out here long, guys. Today is a walk and talk. Thanks for stopping in at the Piney Woods Homestead. Hit that like and subscribe if you hadn't. And y'all, if you have, as always, we do appreciate you. So y'all, when I get ready for these walk and talks, I don't sit down with a pen and paper and figure out what I'm going to talk about. Generally, I do it while I am having my time with the Lord that morning, and I say, Lord, what do you want me to talk about today? And usually through the course of taking care of chores and animals and things like that, thought comes to me, here's what you're going to talk about. So y'all, we're going to talk about America. We're going to talk about America that I knew growing up and America that is today. Y'all, if you look at these pigs, Rosie here, she's our original sow that we started with, and Dixie down here, she's finishing off, I guess, a little bit that Rosie didn't eat. But y'all, the ground is froze solid, and it has been for a couple of days. Everything that was mud is now hard as a rock. And you'll notice these pigs, if you've raised them or are considering it, when the ground freezes over and these pigs are used to soft soil or mud if it's been rainy, when it freezes, y'all, they can barely walk on it. They'll tiptoe around, and they'll do that for several days until their feet get accustomed to that hard ground. Here she comes. She's trotting pretty good, and I noticed that the two topping pigs that are left for us to process, they were moving kind of slow to start with, but once I petted on them a little bit and gave them some feed, they were up and about, ready to go. Their feet are toughening up. They are getting used to this hard world that they are living in. Y'all, I'm a product of the 80s. Born in the late 70s, spent my adolescent years in really what I feel like was a great time for America. Ronald Reagan. I remember we used to have elections in elementary school. They would actually take us all into a computer room and let us vote for president. And even as a young child, it was Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan. If you lived out here in rural America and you appreciated godly values, domestic type stuff, and y'all, we were kids. We didn't know anything about it except for what our parents told us. So I guess we're a product of our parents as well in our upbringing. But y'all, I've often thought, why in the world did they have us go in there and do these elections? I think it was to get a gauge, really. I think it was for the government to get a gauge on what parents were actually thinking, because their kids' answers would reflect what the parents were doing. But y'all, the 80s were a good time. I remember church socials a lot of times, and when it was good weather, it was like every Sunday. Everybody brought food, and you stayed after church and ate. I remember going roller skating, and there really not being any kind of issues at the roller skate place. Everybody was having a good time. You didn't see nobody doping or drunk out there, and if you did, it was taken care of really quick. Things have really changed, y'all. I can't recall a time when a bowling alley or a roller skate rink has been open in those 15 years that I served in law enforcement, where we were not getting called to one of those places all the time for fights, or somebody selling dope in the parking lot, or somebody drunk and exposing himself to kids. Just all kinds of crazy stuff, y'all, that I never saw in the 80s. I'm sure that it still existed, but at that time, I don't think it was as prevalent as it is today. I don't know why that is, other than maybe it's just a godless society that we are living in today. Plus, there's a lot of things, y'all, if you've never walked on the other side as far as serving in law enforcement, military, something like that, things you're just not going to see, that you're ignorant to. You're in blissful ignorance. And a lot of times, y'all, I wish I could just turn off my brain and go back to that blissful ignorance. But it's impossible once you have seen and dealt with the ills of society that I have and other people have. But But y'all, back to these pigs. Let's talk about these pigs in that hard ground. So y'all, just like the pigs, how they are comfortable walking on earth that they are used to, whenever things change, it gets really uncomfortable really quick for them when that ground freezes. But after a certain amount of time, y'all, they start getting used to it. They start not minding it so bad. And y'all, we as human beings are exactly the same way. And especially, unfortunately, as Christians a lot of the times. We get used to that comfortable, everything's going pretty good lifestyle. And then when some things start to creep in that are, let's just say it, call it what it is, evil, we stand aghast at it, aghast. We stand off and we look at it like, oh my gosh, this is not right. Whether it's lifestyle choices that go against God's word, whether it is anything that goes against God's word in the way that we were brought up in our households by our parents. And maybe you weren't brought up that way and you have just found the Lord along your way. But still yet, you are understanding where I'm going with this. We get used to that hard ground. We get desensitized. That's something that I dealt with and still deal with today, y'all. Desensitization. I can't always say words just right, y'all, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. When I first started serving in my old profession, I had to get used to seeing death, seeing overdoses, seeing victimization of all sorts, y'all. And while you never fully accept it, your emotions, your outlook on it gets a bit desensitized. You no longer react emotionally the same way that you did. And it's the same way as those pigs walking on that hard ground. They're no longer acting as if it is something out of the norm. So when we see scandals of all kinds in our churches, in our government institutions, at first we're like, oh my gosh, this isn't right, something's got to change. But as time goes on and more of it continues to happen, sooner or later you almost start thinking, well, this is the new normal. I never did like that term, the new normal. None of it's normal, y'all. None of it is normal. We've become desensitized to the place that we don't take action. What kind of action is that, Matthew? I'm not really even sure, y'all, because I don't believe that our voice is really being heard by those that are elected to be in charge. I don't believe that they hear us anymore. And that's just me, little old country bumpkin out here in central North Carolina talking to you. But I'm sure that that sentiment is well felt all around this country of ours. It's Matthew here at the Piney Woods Homestead, guys. If you have tried our Piney Woodsman Beard Balm, you're going to be thrilled over this. We've come up with a new flavor, as we call them around here, guys. Deer stand, that's what it's called. It's going to remind you of deer hunting in the fall. The smell of fresh leaves falling, the smell of fresh dirt being turned over, the smell of that crisp morning air as you're climbing up into the deer stand, freezing your tail off. Guys, you're going to love Deer Stand from Piney Woodsman. So as me, myself personally, a God-fearing Christian, I don't want to allow myself to become so desensitized to the world that I accept the world. So what do? Do we vote people out? I think we have tried that stuff a time or two, and y'all, I grew up trusting in the system back in the 80s. You trusted in it. You trusted in your government. You trusted in your church body. You trusted in your neighbors. I'd be lying if I said I trusted in all those things like I once did, and y'all know that. if you've watched any of our videos in the past. But the trust that I do have is in the Lord. I still believe that if we follow the example that Christ set for us, that the world can be a better place. But while all this junk is going on, because it's not the 1980s anymore, while we see it all, and I don't have to specifically say every little thing that we're seeing here in America and in the world, because you guys already know. But if we will fix our eyes on things that are above and not things of the world, we're going to be okay. Because we've got to remember that this world is a temporary home. It's temporary. We all get through it. I don't know about y'all, but I have buried several people in my life. Been to funerals, family members, friends. We all end up going into the grave unless the Lord should come back and yank us on out of here before that happens. And I still hope for that, y'all. But in the meantime, we fix our eyes on things that are above, because life does not end right here. Some people may want to tell you that it does, and so they live like the devil while they're here trying to have everything they can, everything that feels good, makes them feel good, because YOLO, you only live once. I didn't even know what that term meant, y'all, years ago. All these little like texting, when that stuff first started happening, the TY, I was like, what is TY? Thank you. Okay. LOL. I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was the little keyboard marks with an O in the middle. I had to learn these things. Not that I even like them today, and I may use them occasionally, but sometimes I feel like I need to give Lisa my man card if I use too many of those little emoji thingies. But, and I'm picking, y'all laugh with me. So, America, it is not what it was in the 1980s. Does that mean we have to be okay with it? Absolutely not. Is there anything we can do to change it? I believe the only way that we can change it is to continue to live the way that we did in those 1980s. As far as how we treat people, how we view things that are just flat out wrong, and whether or not we choose to accept them. Do we get railroaded into accepting things because that's what the world wants? Not me, and hopefully not you. Guys, rambled a little bit here this morning. We'll get back to splitting some wood or getting ready for spring here before you know it, y'all. We'll be getting seedlings started, or Lisa will. I say we. I say we a lot because she and I do everything together, y'all. That's just what we do to survive. So y'all, I'm gonna wrap it up right here because I'm freezing. And I'm ready to get back in the house to that wood stove. Lisa's in there. I told her, I said, take the morning off. It's just too cold. She was out here with me yesterday, splitting a bunch of camp wood, and y'all, it was cold, and she was colder than I was because she was running the controls mostly, and I was doing all the shuffling, so I stayed a little bit toastier than she did. So I don't want to be out in the cold no more than I have to today anyways. But guys, I hope that you have a great week, and Lord willing, and the creek don't rise too high, y'all, we'll see you on the next one. And we appreciate you guys that watch. We appreciate y'all that support us through watching, through purchasing beard balm and candles from our website, stuff we make right here, because as I've said before, believe it or not, y'all, we ain't made of money, but I believe what we are made out of is better than that. Y'all have a good day, a great week. We'll see you on the next one.